Did we contact other estate agents? I talked to them on the phone, a couple of them. I wasn't very impressed by the answers. They were a little bit woolly. I couldn't tie them down. I felt that they were sort of exaggerating what they were saying in terms of how much money they could get, how quickly they could sell it, and how they said we've got buyers straight away. That's something I is a no-no for me. Whereas Martin Gerard had all the information in terms of knowing about our flat. I think they were upfront about their costs and in terms of what they were able to do in terms of selling. They were upfront about everything and they were realistic in what they were saying. And in terms of their fees, I think they were pricing quite fairly on their fees. Their local knowledge when we talked to them was very good because David Mitchell and Daniel Millett, they were based in the Mill Hill office, which is of course in the right locality for where our flat was, and they knew the market very well. So that was a plus. They knew what was realistic in terms of what we could expect in terms of value of what we could sell it for. And they were well aware of what was happening in the market in that area. I think initially trust takes a while to establish. It doesn't happen on your first conversation or your second one. It takes time. But I think what came about was the consistency of the communication, that from what they said initially and from what followed, they didn't really deviate from that. So they kept to what they were saying, and that gives you confidence. So that began to build up a bit of trust. And of course, their communication was good. They were good value for money because they kept us informed. They were contactable. They didn't get frustrated at the number of contacts, phone calls that we made to them. When you look at what's happening with other estate agents in London, they were about the same level, if not slightly better. So it was about the same. They weren't more expensive, but in terms of what they offered in terms of their service, I think they did very, very well. You know, we weren't based in London. We were living in various places, so that made it more difficult for them. So they were very good. That didn't make a difference, even though we didn't live in London. So we could contact them at any time. And sometimes they would talk to us after office hours. That was really very good. Daniel and David, both of them, even though the office closed, would still come back to us because obviously my family were working. They were working in hospitals and so forth. So that made it difficult because they worked in the NHS. But they still contacted us and you know, on the phone. So, you know, it wasn't just by email, wasn't just by text messages. We actually were able to speak to them direct. That's a big thing. So we knew exactly what was happening day to day. They were supportive. They listened to our worries and so forth. They reassured us a lot of the time. But, you know, also in terms of selling the flat, when we went through some obstacles, they dealt with those obstacles that we raised with them. They showed professionalism. They didn't bully anybody. They didn't strong arm anybody. I think they were supportive to both us and the buyer. And they said it as it was in a very kind, supportive way. They helped us in terms of getting it across the line because in doing so, they saved the buyer a lot of money in terms of stamp duty and so forth. So it helped the buyer very much. So there was no strong arm tactics. There was no bullying. They were very good. They were very good with them. When Daniel said he was going to do something, he did it. And the other thing, of course, with Daniel was he had a good relationship with our solicitor and he was in contact with the solicitor. So he knew what was going on on a day-to-day basis. He knew what was happening with the sale because he was keeping in contact. He had a good contact with the solicitor. Made a big difference. We didn't have to keep contacting the solicitor. He knew exactly what was happening. As a matter of fact, when they exchanged, he knew before us, and he said, "Hey, I'll better let you know you've exchanged." The reason why I'm doing this testimonial is because it's an honest testimonial, and I felt it was a deserved testimonial because I think they deserve the accolade because what I've been saying is absolutely true. I'm not exaggerating anything. I'm saying it as it was. And so when people provide a good service, I think the powers that be and Martin Gerard and for anybody else, I think they need to know that. So that's why I'm doing it, because they earned the money. They work very hard, so they deserve it for their professionalism and the support. That's why I'm doing this. Yes, I would. I'd recommend them. Particularly, as I say, my experiences with the Mill Hill office and dealing with Daniel and David, I mean, that's where they're based, so I would have no hesitation there.